All right, all right, all right, all right. Ali, Martin, have you either of you been using InDesign much?
I only used it twice when I applied for the both a master's and upper division, but
Got it,
then
got
I kind of agree with Brian. I've never, well, I know he's
it.
comfortable now, but I'm still not comfortable with it.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll go over the basics today. Hopefully, the approach I use is helpful, and maybe filling in some gaps of understanding where it could be useful. I'm gonna minimize I think I can only see it on my screen, everybody's mugshots. I'm just gonna minimize that so it's out of the way. All right. You guys, can you see my this sort of a dark gray InDesign screen?
Yeah, we
All
can
right,
see it.
good deal. Well, I'll just quickly show you my one of my older portfolios. Okay, hey Jason, we're just getting started and I'm recording. We're doing some demonstrations here in InDesign this afternoon. So pull up
Okay,
a chair, get something nice
watch.
to wet to drink, and just sort of watch and take some notes, and this will be recorded as well, so it'll be available to you tomorrow as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and minimize the screen. I forgot to show you, this is an old portfolio, and I never have time to actually make these darn things. But this was, again, I had a sort of cover, then inside cover, and sort of title sheet for the, and so I would just go into, this is a teaching portfolio. So things I taught in second and third year, fourth year, and then drawings and models and everything else. And then grad. So doing the comprehensive stuff, doing energy modeling on top of that. And then some of the research and R&D and creative work, sort of exhibitions and moving installations and things like that. Um, full scale stuff outside and furniture, etc. So let me go with this one really quickly, and we'll see basically what's happening here in InDesign. So this is the PDF, and here you have a cover. Then I have sort of a two-page spread, right? So left and right. This happens to be 8.5 by 11 landscape orientation. You can see that I basically have a grid of 3 by 2, so 3 columns, 2 rows. And that means I can take up 2 by 2 or 1, 2, 1, 2, or use the first 1/3 for text. So here's the sort of profile text, then a title, and then some descriptors. Right? I could go 1 by 1 row with the whole row up down here. So again, just sort of thinking about how you sort of lay these things out. So here's what that looks like, right? You can see that I have my pages here. Don't worry, I'll start a new thing and we'll start to do this stuff together here in a minute. But um, one of the things you might notice is each page has these cyan guides, and they're located very specifically. You can see that I have 1, 2, 3 columns and 1, 2 rows. I have a consistent spacing in between those, right? I have a little bit of a gutter margin over here, and then the outer margin over here on the right. You can see that that's consistent throughout, right? So it becomes this really handy sort of grid work to sort of plug things into, resize things, or even add just placeholder boxes and then drag and drop things inside of them. So let's see. If you notice maybe up here at the very top on the right on my page here, I have pages. And up above all these sort of pages that I see, I have something called a parent. And I can go and I can actually create different types of parent pages that are basically templates I can drag and drop into these pages so I can get the guides across any page I want, right? So I can make any number of parents. This is an A parent. I could make the next one would be a B parent and a C and a D. probably throughout the whole alphabet if you wanted to. I don't know what happens when you get to 27th parent. Um, maybe it just goes double A and AB, or I don't know. So anyway, uh, that's what we're going to work on first when we start our new files. We'll look at things like page size, and then we'll start to think about how to sort of subdivide that page into useful grid. What kind of rules do we want? Do we want things to go out to the very edge? Do we want margins? That kind of matters if you're going to print or if something's going to be shown on the screen and at what kind of resolution or ratio, aspect ratio. From there, then we can start to build these guides by simply dragging them, clicking and dragging off of these rulers up top. Right, I can start to place guides anywhere I want. You can see that I'm placing these in the A parents. So now when I come down here, you can see that these guides appear because I placed them in the A parents, and the A parent is governing where the guides are on this slide. So I'm just going to go back here and select this and just delete. That kind of wrecks everything where I put it. And look, I just picked a simple 2 by 3. It was the easiest way to sort of think about subdividing 8.5 by 11. I believe if I look at this, it starts at 0, 0 up here at the top left of my rulers. And I think I go down like 4 1/8 and draw a line, then go down a quarter of an inch or something to 4 3/8 and draw a line. And so I basically have cells, a row on either top and bottom that are the same size. Here, I think it's just the same thing. I think it's like a quarter or 3/8. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, something like that. But anyway, I'll show you how you can start to do some of these things with quick precision. But it usually boils down to taking something like 8.5 by 11 or A4 or one of those sort of common formats, depending on if you're thinking imperial or metric, and then dividing it up into sort of equal cells or starting to think about how you want to sort of populate the page. Um, I kept this pretty consistent, I think. Yeah. So here, when I get to just sort of listing things like, here were some recent publications, I guess, my stuff was in. So, I simply include either some sort of graphic front page or cover, and then I would have this sort of title, and then title, author name. If it's here's a article in the newspaper in Paris, author Nicholas Six, and then the title and exactly right. So, or pennies and if they didn't have an author, I just left the author out. But like El Decor, they just pick things up and run with them and then tell you afterwards. It's kind of interesting. Um, Same with exhibitions and things like that. So, um, again, just coming up with a sort of this was just simply to send to somebody for some quick uh, along with a proposal for some freelance work. And so I just had to throw this together, but simply making that grid and then being able to populate things quickly. It helps that, and this is something you might consider. I try to keep everything together in a website. Not that I think a lot of people visit the website, but it's a place for me to sort of keep everything together. It's like a database for me. So let's say um, let's see, invited to Tulane, right? So now if I need to prove that I was there, I have photos, I have the agenda, all this stuff in one place, or something like that, right? So, and then when, it's kind of handy when somebody asks me like, well, what was about this? I can just send them a web link and then it has everything about it on here and including all the promotional stuff and anything else. So from there, I have sort of a database of like all my image assets and things like that together, any relevant PDFs and of course web links. So it's kind of makes it easier to sort of copy and paste or just download and then drop into this thing, right? So um, and then a cover with a little copyright statement, kind of funny. But anyway, so should we get started?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. All right, here it is. I'm going to go ahead and hit new file. It's going to bring up a box and give me some parameters to deal with here. I don't necessarily need to name anything here. What I'm really concerned about to start off with is the page size. And by default, for some reason, my InDesign build starts with picas. I still don't understand what the hell a pica is. I've been doing this for 20 some years. I've seen picas mentioned in Illustrator, in InDesign, in Macromedia Freehand even. Corel Draw, I still don't understand what they are. But I do like to set these to inches, and then in my case, I'll just pick like letter size 8.5 by 11 in case I do want to print this out, or maybe I'm thinking square 8 by 8 or something like that. You can always change things here, width and height and inches. Of course, I could change this so that it's landscape or portrait. Now you'll notice that there's like, you can put in different columns or margins. You can do that here. I'm going to change that after the fact, after I created the document. So I'm not quite sure I know what to do yet. So for those, so I'm just going to leave them as is and hit create. And that'll bring up, ta-da, my very first InDesign document. You can see right here on the right-hand side, I have something called pages. Hopefully you have something similar on your top left. You can see page number one's right here, and if I add more pages, they'll start to drop down below page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Up above that, I have something called parents, which we just talked about, and we'll talk about in just a minute. What's properties? Oh, properties, I see. So there's a couple of things. I don't know why InDesign thinks this is progress. They decided to put the properties in this box along with pages. So you have to toggle back and forth between these things. What I'm going to do is something different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Window, pull down, and I'm just going to define my workspace to Essentials Classic. I don't understand why, again, why hide it behind yet another mouse click? I don't understand that. That puts all of those properties right here at the top. Oh yeah, look at that. Mm-mm-mm. I don't know what these CC libraries are. I'm gonna get rid of them because they're taking up too much space. Now I have pages, layers, links, stroke, color, swatches. Stroke, color, and swatches, you probably recognize those from Illustrator. They're very similar. And when I pull out the pages, I can adjust the height here. And I can go back and forth between layers and links and pages. If you don't see pages, layers, or links, just like with Photoshop and Illustrator, you can go to the Windows pull down and you'll see all the different options for those boxes over here. So you can see right now I have uh, links and pages. If you don't see any of those over here, you can toggle them on and then drag them over and dock them over here if you want. Okay. Enough of that. I'm just going to move those over just so I see the icons. Give myself a little more screen real estate here. All right. So a couple of things. One, you'll notice that we have some magenta and violet sort of guides going horizontal and vertical, like the sort of margins of the around the paper. And I just want to clarify, right? Like you see those in InDesign, but when you publish as a PDF, they won't be in the PDF. When you print from InDesign, if you print, they won't be printed out. They're just visual cues on your screen while you're laying things out, so you can see where those guides are, if the ones that they put in here, as well as any that you sort of pull down and drag around and position yourself. Okay. But when I did the Essentials Classic, that workspace, it gave me a bunch of really good, interesting thing and useful tools up here along the top, just like in Photoshop, right? So we have some tools over here, a toolbar on the left, and then we have some parameters up here at the top. You can see that I can take anything and I can say, let's take its left corner. We can position it in space and X and Y very precisely. We can adjust its width and height with precision. We can scale and rotate and change transparency, etc. So a lot of the tools that I like to use in situ on dragging and dropping things and then resizing. Sometimes I like to sort of drag and resize, but oftentimes I find that if I want to be completely precise, I can go up here and say, okay, yeah, this is going to be exactly zero point 0.5, zero point 0.5 in the X and the Y from the top left corner downwards. And I want it to be exactly 2.5 by 3 inches or something like that, right? I can do that kind of stuff here. So without further ado, I'm just going to I'm going to go ahead and do that. I can do File Place, which is the shortcut for that is Command D in the micro, sorry, on the Mac OS. I don't know if it's probably Control D on Windows on a PC. Um, and Command Control, they're interchangeable depending on if you're using Mac or Mac OS or Windows. So place, or I can just simply drag and drop. I can come in here and say I just want to drag. Let's see. Let's drag one of these over and click and place it. Now you can see the problem right away. If you have any kind of decent image with decent resolution and size, it's bigger than 8.5 by 11 by a lot, right? See how I'm zooming out, which by the way is the same as Photoshop and Illustrator. Command minus, Command plus, Command 0 will fit the document to screen. So Command 0 will zoom out, or Command minus will zoom out. So let's take a look at this, right? Um, I'm going to very precisely move this over here so it snaps to that margin. I'm going to select it, and you can see over here where now I have width and height. It's telling me right now that it's 80.8889 inches, nice round number, of course, by 45.3333 inches in height. And what I can do is I can say, let's make sure that the aspect ratio, the ratio of width to height is constrained. In other words, if I change one, the other will adjust with it to keep that aspect ratio. And I'm going to say, let's scale from the top left corner. So make sure that that top left corner is highlighted. And I'm going to say, let's make this, I know my document's only 8.5 wide, and my width right now is 80. So I'm going to say, let's make this 6 inches wide, right? Now, look what it did. And what happens when I continue to sort of resize the frame? It's not resizing the image inside the frame, just the frame, right? And so let me show you what that means. If I go to the frame now, to this image, and I right click on it and I say fitting and say fit frame, or fit content to frame, right? Then what I've done is I've said, this is the size I want this to be. This is the window, the mask, the frame that I'm looking through. And now I can fit the picture inside of it. It's kind of weird. But what's really nice is that if I need to, in while I'm working, just quickly sort of, you know, I say, man, I really don't want all this dark space over here that's not balanced. I'm going to sort of pull it over a little further, right? Maybe fits perfectly in my grid somehow, right? I can go ahead and do that. Um, so just keep that in mind. When you're by default just sort of moving this around, you're just stretching the frame around the image, right? The sort of picture, the mask that we're looking through. And then inside, I can go ahead and fit. I could say fit content to frame. I could say fill it, fit it proportionally, or fill the frame proportionally. All right. And there's lots of different ways of thinking about this. Now, when you hover over the image with my cursor, you notice this real little disk. If I click that, guess what? That's the image underneath this mask. So you can think of it as the view out the window. The frame is the window. And now I can sort of position this until if that's the size I need, I can position this till I get everything that I want in the frame, right? Given that I have this size of frame, I can sort of position things around accordingly. It's a little weird, I'll admit it, not gonna lie, but that's how we can start to drag and drop images. I'm just gonna drag a few in here that we can start to play around with. That one will work. And this one will work. Let's see. Let's do that one too. And I just have a few here. Maybe I can, I just opened it rather than dragging it off here. There we are. You can see all of these are considerably bigger than my paper size. Did that drag? I don't know. I think I'm like accidentally like dragging things on and off of others. Let's see. Let me just quickly here. I'll just Command D this bad boy. There we go. Command D. And let's see. Download. Actually, let's go look at my stuff here. Downloads. Let's go to icons so I can actually see. Here we go. I'm just going to go ahead and select all four at once here. And I'm just going to like click, 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 click. These are all too big. And so one of the things I'm going to have to do is resize these. But I'm going to go ahead and pull this one over here. And let's say I'm going to make this one to start off with 4 inches, right? I'll do the same thing over here. Make this one 4 inches. You can see I'm just resizing the frame. So I'll need to sort of resize the picture inside the frame here in just a moment. So this is similar to when we in Illustrator, we had to make our own sort of mask shape. Let's say to mask out a portion of the trees or something, right? This already comes with a frame or a rectangular mask. So I can right click and I can say fit frame, fit content to frame. And there we go. Let's say fit content to frame. Do this,
That's slick.
right? Yeah, not too bad, right?
That it,
So I have these aligned in a column. The spacing, I think once I established this spacing, then the next one sort of said, well, do you want to do the same? Like, I don't know if you guys noticed that, but if I move this over here, you see that little orange, the green arrowheads there? And it's saying, well, this last one was this spacing. Do you want to do this one with that spacing? I can just drag it and say, yeah. So there is a little bit of an IntelliSensing here on Adobe's part, trying to sort of figure out what you're going for. But what I could do is I could also, again, position this very precisely on the 8.5 by 11 page. So, for instance, I have this image selected. I have the left corner selected. And right now I have it set to be zero point 0.5, right? So if you look at the zero point 0.5 in X, zero point 0.5 in Y, yep, right there, right? So that's no surprise. That was our top margin and left margin, half inch in. So when we snapped it to those guides around the sort of margin area, then it naturally just went to zero point 0.5, zero point 0.5. But I can look at this and go, okay, this one's at zero point 0.5 and 3. This one's at zero point 0.5 and 5.5. And this one's at zero point 0.5 and 8.5. So you can start to see how these things actually sort of can line up. So that said, I don't really have any way of lining these things up in a good way. Let's go to our parents, and let's start to place some guides and think about maybe more than one way, but several ways we could begin to subdivide this page. So I'm just going to double click here, literally double click in the parent on one of these parent pages. There it is, right? And now suddenly I'm inside the parent. It's taking me to this parent page I can start to play around with. All right, so first and foremost, right? I know that the top to bottom is 11 inches, the left to right is 8.5. I'm going to disregard these sort of half inch margins around. You don't have to. I mean, those are perfectly natural and nice looking margins, but I'm going to think about this just a little differently. So, first of all, I'm going to think in terms of maybe the rule of thirds. Maybe I'll try to subdivide this so I have a 3 by 3 grid, right? So if I'm thinking about I usually just do this on the back of an envelope here or something. Let me find some notes here. I'm thinking about how to subdivide 11 nicely, knowing that I'm going to also need some spacing in between the columns and the outside maybe, and perhaps the gutter here. The gutter is the binding facing the bind facing margin, right? So let's see, 11 inches. So I know 9, 3 inches. So if let's say I subdivide this into 3 inches, I still have 2 inches of slack left over. That's way too much for one, two, and then let me just think about how to subdivide this, right? So if I'm thinking about 3 columns, right, that means I'm going to need a margin here and here and here and then over here somewhere, right? So I'm going to need 4 margins. So ideally, if I have a leftover that's also sort of easily divisible by 4 or something, that'd be great, right? So it's this sort of trying to find that sweet spot and what looks good and what makes sense mathematically or how to utilize the page. Um, so I'm thinking, let's see, if I go with instead of 9, let's think about 10, 10.5. So that's 3.5, right? That's 7, 10.5, yeah. So 3.5 here. boink, for each of these columns. And that then leaves me half of an inch. So let's see, 10 and a half. So it's half of an inch to sort of think about this, 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 and this. So a quarter inch margin or spacing between columns, including the outside and the inside. That could work. So let me try that. Let me test this out here. I'm going to go ahead and do that by simply making sure I have my cursor tool. And I see these rulers here. Hopefully you see rulers on yours. If not, again, if you go to View, you can hide or show rulers right here in the View pull down. Okay. There's also something here called grids and guides, and sometimes your guides, when you drag them, might get locked. You can always unlock them here. You can show them or hide them, turn them off temporarily here as well. You can hide the guides just to sort of see what everything looks like without those cyan and pink lines going through your paper. So, which is handy sometimes. So I'm thinking about these three columns first. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag out of the ruler, and I'm going to eyeball this and try to drag it where it's a quarter inch off the page. All right. And it's still selected. And look at this. If I'm not quite at 0.25 inches, I could type that in right here and make sure it's exactly 0.25 inches. Sometimes, depending on the increments and how zoomed in or out you are, you don't get the granularity to get it perfect. I recommend making it perfect in the parent. You'd make it perfect once and then everything will work after that, right? So we're starting now at a quarter inch and moving 3.5 inches over. So 3.75 would be the next edge. Try to see if I can get there. It was close, 3.72. I'm going to go ahead and just nudge that over. It's going to bug me if it's not. The next one will then be a quarter inch over, so at 4. Oh, perfect. Look at that. Man. So 4, then let's see, another, let's see, 3.5. Oh, wait, sorry. I'm doing rows, not columns, because 11 inches. Okay. I'll try to act a little smarter. So I'm going to drag from the top and yeah, okay. It's like that doesn't line up. Like, I mean, I'm not like a mathematician, but this is not mathin'. All right. So, sorry, 3.75. Gosh, amateur mistake. What did I just learn InDesign yesterday or something? What's going on? All right. That says 4.02. I'm just going to round that up to 4, round that down to 4. Let's see. So 3.5, that would be 7.5, right? 7.5. Then 7.75, quarter inch later. So again, just sort of, and oftentimes what I'll do is I'll just get an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and start to draw on it and notate it to sort of lay it out and figure it out in my head. I'm a very visual person, so if I can, I'll just sort of lay this stuff out and figure it out by drawing it and then executing it here. So let's see, this was at 7.75. So 8.75, 9.75, 10.75, 11, 10.75. It's close. 10.72. All right. Three and a half, 3.75. This should have been a 6.75. Again, I'm not doing math very well here. Okay, so this one, I can select these by just clicking on them. 6.75. This one, oop, let's make that perfect 7. No, is that right? Good grief. This is why I should draw it out on paper. Oh, sorry, this is at 4. Okay, so 7. Okay, and then 7.25. All right, that makes more sense. Okay, it's like visually this is not looking even. So usually, I've over time I've grown tick marks in my retinas. I can sort of eyeball some of this, and it's not.
are those guides or lines?
Those are guides, right? So I'm clicking and dragging out of the ruler.
Okay, got it.
and and they're going to be there for me to look at while I'm in InDesign. You won't
Okay.
see them outside of InDesign, and you definitely won't see them if you print them, but they are there for you to sort of again lay out that page. Um, and you can see that when I was doing this, it didn't do it on the right hand side. I'm going to go ahead and do that as
Okay.
well.
Let's see where you get them.
0.25, click and drag, Yeah. And then I'm going to go up here and make sure those are positioned just perfectly. 4, 7.5 or whatever. This is at 4. And I said these are going to be 3.5. So 7.5. Yeah, what is going on here? I'm just not doing math today. My brain is so, oof. Here I thought I could do math in my head and be very clever. I was wrong. Okay. What's throwing me off, I think, is these margin lines are not aligning with what I would want. So 4, so let's see. We have this 3.74, then 4 plus 3.5 is 7.5. There we go. And then this one's going to be 7.75. And then last but not least, this one's going to be 10.75. No, that doesn't make sense either. Oof. All right, hold on a second. So we have 0.25, and we have 3.754. Then we have 3.5, right? So 3.5, wait, 3.5 plus 3.5 is 7. Then add another 3.5 is 10.5. So we only have half of an inch, not a full inch. Oh, okay, that's why. All right, so that's why math ain't mathin'. I need to come up here and say 0.125. All right. Well, this is nice and round now. So this would be, golly, 3.5 plus 0.125 is 3.625. Oh, stupid. And then this will be 3.75. All right. Yeah, this will, and then there's an eighth inch gap. All right, so that's 3.75. And let me just 3.75 plus 3.5. Let me just make sure I don't make any more mistakes in front of everybody. How embarrassing. That would be 7.25. All right. So let's move that up 7.25. And so that would then be 387 point 325. No, 375. There we go. And at this point, I think this is just going to be an eighth of a way. So this is going to be 10.875. There we go. All right. Yikes. Dude, metric system works so much better than freaking imperial units. Like
That's
doing
easy.
doing fractions in my head is like just the dumbest thing ever. All right, so there we go. 3.625 and 3.75. Let's see. And then this one should be 7.25, 7.375. Okay. 7.3. Did I say 75? Yeah. And then this is 7.25. And then last but not least, 10.875. 10.875. Okay. Right. So all of that just to get 3 rows. Oh my goodness. You know what? These pink and purple boxes, the margins are really like they're just driving me nuts visually. So I'm just going to go to layout pull down and go to margins columns. And I'm just going to say 0 margin at the top, 0 on the inside, 0 on the outside, 0 on the bottom. Just move those out to the edges. I'll do it over for this page as well. Double click over here, layout, margins and columns, 0, 0 those dudes out. Just get rid of them. They drive me up a wall. I didn't put them there, so I don't like them because I'm anal like that. Anyway, so now we have 8.5. Now, clearly, math isn't my forte all the time, but let me think. If I do 2.5, that would give me 5, and then 7.5. That gives me a full inch to play around with. I might just do that. So let's think 2.5, going out vertically with a 1/4 inch in between. Let's try that out. This is why I do this once in the master and I don't, start playing around with this stuff. Let's see. So 2.5, I said, right? So 2.75, then 3 for that 1/4 inch space. Then 5.5, bump it up, and 5.75. Yeah, 5.76. Oh, come on. 1/100th of an inch will really bug me. Trust me. And then last but not least, I should just have a 1/4 of an inch away. So 8.25. There we go. Yeah, not too shabby, right? So now I have the rule of thirds, right? I have 3 by 3. And let's see, I just need to do it on this side as well. 1/4 inch, 8.75 because it starts at 8.5. So 8.75. Uh, Golly, it's going to try my patience here. 2.5. So if we add a half to that, that's 9.25. So 11.25.
Couldn't you just hold the option key and select all the ones that you just made and drag them over?
You could,
And then
maybe.
they'd
I don't
all
know.
be ready to go for you.
Probably. 11.5. I just like to, do math on the spot. 14. I'm almost there. 14 1/4. But yeah, it's supposed theoretically, I guess you could just copy and paste them. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Then you'll end
16.75.
up in Chat GPT wondering why all the sizes are different and why they don't work. And
That's the thing. I mean, here I can confirm it, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
the all right. So now we have this parent, right? Both left and right hand side. Aha, look at that. It's showing up here, right? So now we have something we can start to size things towards. Now, it's not lost on me that not necessarily would be applied to here. So let me just show you, right? If for some reason uh, you don't see the guides from the parent show up on these pages, all you have to do is simply click and drag the parent over the page, right? And it should then show up. And I think maybe from there, yeah, see, I'm just adding page. Oop. So go to my first page. I can add pages. Now it looks like they're showing up on them. And of course, if I have a different type of parent or I don't want to have any guides, I can always drag the none over and then clear that out, or then drag the A parent back over and put the guides in. Now I can't edit the guides out here in like pages 1, 2, or 3. I have to go back into the parent, get back into the template and edit it there. And then once I edit in the template, when I come back out here, all the changes will update. Okay. When it comes to those guides and things like that. So something to keep in mind, right? Like what do you put on in the parent versus what do you put out here in the pages? So from here, it looks like I have a couple of options, but first of all, it looks like I have too many images to display in here. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and cut, then paste right here into these pages. Just drag this one down. Yeah, so a couple of things, right? I might go ahead and click and drag and just make these line up with the grid. I might do the same thing over here on this side. Thinking about sort of if this was a spread. From here, I might sort of think, well, maybe the aspect ratio I can deal with. I can always sort of fill things in proportionally. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say fit content proportionally. Now watch what happens when I do that. You'll notice that it's going to maintain the proportions and only fit it inside. So I have empty space to the top and the bottom. What I can do is say fill frame proportionally, right? And then I realize that I have stuff off to the left and the right that's being cropped out, right? Outside of my mask. So I can always move that until I get it just where I want it. Actually didn't look so bad where it was, right there maybe. Same thing here. I'm going to right click and say fitting and then fill frame proportionally. Then I can click this disk and start to move some things around, get things centered the way I want. Let's try it over here. Why not? Let's try it with this one. Hoo-hoo. we'll make a 1 by 3 over here. Not that I think that would look good with this stuff over here, but let's just try it. I'm going to fill frame proportionally. Do the same thing over here. Fill frame proportionally. Let's take a look at this one. You can see that I'm now cropping some of the top and bottom stuff out. And now it's up for me to sort of, if I want this aspect ratio of the frame, then to figure out how much of the image I want to show and which parts of the image I want to show. Um, it's sort of like when you switch aspect ratios on a television to HD, but then you're watching like an old show, streaming an old show from the 90s that wasn't filmed on HD or 16:9 or something, right? Widescreen. And so then you have like a box at the top and the bottom or on the left and the right, just sort of black, unless you have it stretch, right? So I don't like to stretch my images. I think that's like, I wouldn't want to do that ever, typically. So what I do is I then sort of make the compromise, okay, which parts of the image do I show? So here I'm just going to say fill frame proportionally. There we go. I'm going to have some stuff off the left and the right. Maybe I'm just going to move this slightly off to the center. And in fact, give it just a little more weight to the left. Why not? Oh, that's too far. Here we go. Yeah, I'll just center it up like that. Same thing here. I'm going to go ahead and change the frame size and then fill frame proportionally. And then look over here. I think what I can do is move some of this over, better utilize the stuff that actually is being seen, right? Okay, so that's how you can begin to place things in here. Now let's take a look at another way, right? Let's say I don't necessarily have all the images that I need just yet. Let's say I'm working on my studio project and I'm thinking that I'm going to have a plan, and so I'm going to drop something in here. I'm going to use a rectangular frame tool. So you see my cursor over here in the tools. I have cursors. There's something called the rectangular frame tool. What I'm going to do is just make a placeholder box, right? A frame, right? And you can see that it's just going to be a blue outline with an X through it, just a placeholder. And then if I click and drag something into that, then let's see, let's take this. Why not? Let's drag that in there. All right. So what you can see is I've placed it inside that frame. That frame becomes the mask. And then from here, I could say, let's fill frame proportionally, right? Then let's see what leftovers we have on either side. Looks like we have some to the left and the right. Now I just need to decide, how to crop this thing right there, maybe. Oh yeah, that's it right there. Okay, so or whatever. So there's lots of different ways to do this. If you know that you're gonna have lots of images and they're just gonna be in a grid, you could always do something like this, right? Make some frames in here once so that everything sort of lines up with your grid. Let's see. Why is it not doing it? Here's my rectangular frame tool. There we go. Sorry, my mouse is just being dumb, right? So I could place these, make sure that they all snap and do this once, right? And it's a lot easier to just draw these and snap it to the grid than sometimes it is to sort of stretch and resize a bunch of things after the fact. All right, let's just try this. So then when I hit Command D to place, right? Again, that's just the shortcut for file and place. Let me just go, let's see, documents, this. Let's go here. Let's go to links. And what I can do is I can select 9 of those. I can place one here and 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 here. Then I can select them and then just say, okay, fitting fill frame proportionally. There we go, right? So there's a sort of economy of scale to this. If you figure out a system that really works and works in almost every case, then you can get quite good. Now, from here, I might fine tune a few things, move that over, decide where I want to be centered and where that crop really happens. But that's one way of sort of looking at these things. Drives me crazy that person isn't closer to the center. There we go. Like that. This is perfect. Anywho, all right. So, should we talk about a little bit of text now? I know I'm going fast, but let's talk about some text. Let me just this is driving me crazy. I'm just going to pull out my mouse really quickly because it doing this stuff on the touchpad sometimes is can be painful. I like to move my cursor around, and sometimes it doesn't lend itself to the touchpad. All right, here we go. Now I have a mouse pad, and I can hold down that keyboard space key, and my cursor turns to a hand I can pan. So let me zoom in here. Now I can pan across things. Yeah, there's page 2 and 3. All right, pages 2 and 3. Command 0, Command minus, scoot it over, center it up. All right, so let's think about text. So it doesn't look like I have much over here in the way of text boxes, like you would think over here on the right-hand side. So I'm going to go to my Windows pull down and let's see. I have some type tools here, types and tables. Character, paragraph. Yeah, those look like exactly what I want to do. And then maybe later I can go to styles. We can even make character and paragraph styles once we have something fine-tuned, just the way we want it to look. Let's say we have the perfect size and bold and sort of typeface settings for, let's say, a title and a subtitle and paragraph body text. We can then start to make those styles. Let me just apply those styles to all the individual text boxes that we have. All right, so let's just talk about text just a little bit, and then I'll show you how you can link in text from Word document, can be handy. So let's see. I'm going to go type. I'm going to put in character here. Let's put that in over docket over here as one of our boxes. There we are. All right, now over here on the left-hand side, this toolbar, you'll see the universal type or text icon, and that allowed me make a text box. Now I just sort of clicked and dragged and made like and made dragged. Anyway, a box. I wasn't really careful about the size. I'm just going to start typing some things into this. I'm going to call this uh, monumental draped interiors. And that's going to move this over here as like a caption. And I'm going to change this so that it's actually like the size of the column, two of these columns together, just like my images. Maybe drag it to form, this sort of box here. Um, and if I wanted to, I could then add some text here. I could say, well, these are images of fictional architectural spaces generated with a latent diffusion model. I'm typing this out not because I think it's really interesting, but I want you to sort of see some of the things that InDesign does out of the box with text that can be kind of annoying and how you can fix some of these things or change some of the settings. So it's not fictional, it's fictional architectural space generated light and diffusion model called Midjourney. Um, these are a part of a numbered series titled Glow. Just say series. I don't know. I'm kind of out of words anyway at the moment. All right. So first things first. First of all, I think by default it's used Minion Pro. Nothing against those little funny yellow guys in the movies, but I don't like Minion Pro, honestly. Um, then it's not terrible, actually. But I do want to sort of think about some fonts and typefaces here. You have a lot to pick from. I recommend, oh, don't do that. I recommend picking something that's largely neutral, right? That doesn't stand out, right? Like if people notice the text, like the typeface, rather than looking at the beautiful imagery or or reading what it says, I think you've kind of lost something there, right? So I think I always stick to something like maybe Arial or Helvetica, or Times New Roman or Book Antiqua or something like that, depending on if I'm thinking serif or sans serif, right? Serif, you guys know what that means? Serif and sans serif?
the connections of the edges of the
Yeah.
letters.
Yeah. So for instance, if I pick Helvetica, you notice it's nice, clean font. There's nothing sort of unnecessary in the letters. If I did the same thing, let's say I changed it to Times New Roman, right? Times New Roman is a serifed font. In other words, it has the sort of serifs, the embellishments at the ends of all of the stems and pieces of right. So you see, we have the serifs, at the end of the T and at the bottom, and at the end of the H and the bottom, right? And at the either end of the S curve and things like that, right? So serif versus sans serif fonts. There's nothing wrong with either one. I used to just really love sans serif. Now I'm kind of growing on some really classic looking serif fonts. Um, so let's see. But if I just thought about this for a moment, let's see here. And what kind of font do I? Oh, stop it. Please stop it. Let's see. What kind of fonts do I have? This is a new laptop, so I don't think I have anything. I used to have this really good font from the Grotesque family that was really good. Um, it was so good I said good twice there in that sentence. Um, one of you mentioned Century Gothic. I don't see that in here. No, don't see Bank Gothic either. Let's see. Baskerville is kind of a nice serif font. There we go. Let's do Baskerville. Why not? Um, whatever, right? I'm going to do 18. Let's see. I'll make this, let's say 10. Serif fonts are good, like Times New Roman. Good, like for instance, in newspapers and things like that, where you have a lot of body text to read, right? And to sort of where the sort of words sort of flow together and keep your eye moving in the right direction without skipping things. So it's not a bad thing to use a serif font. One thing I am going to mention though, before I change the size, you notice how it automatically wants to hyphenate words, even if they're it's a really unfortunate hyphenation. Like that's really confusing. I would never think about putting a dash, a hyphen between the two F's in diffusion. Um, so one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this text box. I'm going to go to character and it's not here. Okay. But you can see up here in this box that sort of trip the lines, right? You get some options. So I can underline, strike through, etc. So what I'm going to do is instead of using the character box, I'm going to come back to my window. These are the things that I wish they would just put these by default on here anyway. And I'm going to go to type in the tables again. There's a character. I'm going to go ahead and select paragraph. And I'll bring paragraph and I'll dock that right under a character. There we go. In fact, no, here's what I'm going to do. Pull that off and I'll put this as a tab so I can go back and forth between character and paragraph right here. Oh yeah, look at that. So if I go to paragraph and I select this text box and I go to the options, look at this. There's justification. So what do you think the default should be? Hyphenation. I'm going to turn hyphenation off. I'm going to click it and I'm going to uncheck it on the stupid box here. Now I'm going to have something that looks sort of like it's left justified, right? Like we used to call it ragged right. So everything sort of lines up neatly on the left, um, and then it just returns on the right when it absolutely needs to. Um, that is maybe different than sort of doing this, right? Where I can say full justify, but then I start to get these really awkward spaces in between words. Anybody who likes kerning and letting will tell you, like, don't do that, please. All right, so I'm just going to do ragged right, left justify, and I'm just going to, let's see. I'm like a real jerk about this stuff. Like, I just love this stuff. It's another thing I usually do. Uh, kind of weird, but I learned this as a trick and I've loved it ever since. Is if down here you can see that I have a fill and a outline or stroke color. And for text, I have just automatically it's set to black. What I like to do is just set that just to a little bit of gray, like a darker gray. Um, I'm going to say 59 here and then 59 here as well. Give it like sort of a gray. There we go. See that gray? I'm just gonna make the body text just a little lighter than everything else. Oh yeah, that's so good. And then when I make that a style, it's gonna just like that just things pop, right? You start to see a hierarchy to these things. All right, so as I mentioned, right, we can see our guides in InDesign, but of course, let's see what this thing looks like without the guides. I can go to View, pull down, hide guides. There we go. That doesn't look too bad. You can see the frames around things. I can also hide the frames. Let's see, extras, hide frame edges. There we go. That's how it would look like in print or in a PDF, right? I'm going to go ahead and turn those back on just so I can see them again. Sometimes it's helpful to see these things. Show frame edges. Let's see, view, extras, hide rulers. What did I, show, let's see, grids, show guides. There we go. All right, these guides are helpful. Right. So another thing when it comes to similar to what we were doing here, making placeholders for images, if we know that we're going to have a grid and that they're going to be, let's say, somewhere in the neighborhood of this looks like 3 to 4, 3 parts wide, 4 parts tall, or whatever that we used for that. We could do the same thing and make placeholder things for text, right? So let's say that instead of doing that, I was going to come here. I'm going to say Times New Roman, 10 point font. Um, yeah. All right. Here we go. I have a text box now. And let me just make another text box over here under this one. All right. And then let's make a few more pages. I'm just going to go up to my pages, remember? Double click on number 3, and then I'll say plus. So I'll add more after that. 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, why not? Right? They show up here about just the way they do up here. Um, so we put a text box here and here. Now I'm going to put one, let's say this will be a text heavy page right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put a text box in, hit that text tool, click and drag, make a column there, and then we'll do the same thing over here. All right. So there's a couple of things. One is that I could just start typing on these things willy-nilly and have a good time doing it. But let's talk about placing a Word doc, right? So, for instance, when it comes to typing out text, particularly if there's, like paragraphs of text, um, I prefer just working in Word, right? I mean, like being able to sort of like type things out, make sure things are right, make sure things are doing footnotes and endnotes, thinking about spelling, grammar, making sure, trying to get rid of errors, etc. Right? Like it's a lot easier to type, proofread, spell check in Word, right? So this is just like an old essay I had sitting around from something, and it's a Word doc. So what I can do is I can go to File and Place or Command D, and just like I can select an image, I'll go over to my downloads and I'll select my Word doc. Where is it? Uh, okay, clearly I'm just dumb. Let's see, list. Here we go. Ah, there we go. Right. Now it's going to say you're missing some of the fonts they're using. It's Garamond, Garamond Italic, Garamond Bold. I'm just going to say replace fonts. Sure. Let's replace this one with, it really wants to use Minion Pro, doesn't it? Okay. Change all. Minion Pro Italic. Oh, there's only regular. All right, well, I'll just say yes, whatever. I don't necessarily care so much. And hit done. Okay. Now, you'll see that I have this text and I just need to click in the box that I made, the text box, to insert it in. You'll see that because this actually has a bunch of footnotes and things like that, that it's actually trying to put the footnotes in, which is kind of annoying. Um, let's just get rid of some of the footnotes here. I Damn. Okay, well, hold on. Before I even worry about that, let's suffice to say that we don't have nearly as much enough text box to display all that text. And it's telling us that the text runs way beyond our text frame with this plus this red box saying, "Hey, look, you have text going out of the frame." So I can click that, and then look what happens. I can click the next text box, and I'll just continue on to the next text box. I can click that, and then continue on to the next text box and then the next one, right? And so now let's say I go, man, this is really too close. I can scoot this up and now it's gonna continue to justify through and update as we go, right? I mean, this is kind of a weird way of formatting the text, not the least of which is because of the footnotes, unfortunately here. Eesh. I just picked a bad example, I guess, because of the footnotes, but and then these strange characters right here, right? So, for instance, if I get to, let's say, this edge and let's say I don't want to sort of orphan. This is what we call this thing. We don't want to orphan these three lines of this paragraph. We just want the new paragraph to start on the next page. I could always move that up, and then suddenly it starts on this one. Um, if this was a different essay, I could then, the start of a different essay instead of just a different part of a different essay or the same essay, I could move this up and sort of get this so that until it, right? So I could begin to sort of arrange things compositionally on the page here. Maybe there's a space for an image here that maybe I try to condense the footnotes down to one spot or maybe make them in notes or whatever. There's ways to deal with that kind of stuff here and under the type with footnotes in notes from Word. Um, Also, you can make special characters. So let's say I make a special character for, let's say, page numbers, and I put those in the parent. So let's say I'm always going to have a page number and it's always going to be in a certain spot in these layouts. I can say type, let's say insert character, symbols, markers, current page number, markers. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm in the parent and I'm going to place a text box, make it like that. And of course, I need to go to my character and make sure that this is set to Minion Pro, I guess. And I'm going to make this super small, let's say size 8. And it's going to be always like right here on the corner. I might regret this, but you'll see. We'll see. And so inside of this now, I'm going to say type, insert special character, markers, current page number. Here, let's actually get inside. There we go. See the cursor is blinking now, like, hey, go ahead and type. Now I can insert, let's see, insert special break character, special character, symbols, markers, current page number. So it's going to say, oh, this is A. Yeah, of course, because it's over here. Now maybe I move this a bit so that I get it just perfect right inside of here. Okay. Now when I come back out, let's go back to our pages. Okay, there's our first page. Our second page has a 2, and our fourth page has a 4, and our sixth page has a 6, right? So we can, again, just sort of make this thing kind of parametric and do some of these things. Now, I don't expect you to remember all those little details. Like you can always like, hey, how do I number the pages in InDesign really easily? And you can find, again, a brief explainer, either at the top of Google through AI or Gemini or whatever, or most likely it'll point you to a quick YouTube video or something. But and that gets to another thing, right? I mean, sometimes these things are, I really hate the space it puts, that sort of thing it puts over the footnotes. Anyway, what I should have done is this, right? Here, let's just undo that deleting. Here we go. Let's come back here. Yeah. So anyway, what I was just going to say is what we can do is we can always just go back to the Word doc and then refresh everything. So if I edit in the Word doc and get rid of all footnotes, I can't even remember how to do that, honestly, or make them all in notes. Let's see. How do we do let's see. Well, anyway, that's something I would look up and just figure out how to do that in Word. And because I've gone back here. If I need to edit this, spell check and stuff like that, I would do that in Word. Then when I open this back up, I just make sure things are actually working correctly, right? So, so yeah, anyway, that's one way to sort of think about this. Um, let's see, what else am I missing here? So that's just basically making some images and text and things like that. But again, I stand by, um, making sure that you here, do this. I'll click and drag and make a new box, right? Yeah, this just keeps going. Too long. So anyway, um, yeah, it's been a while since I read this essay. It's kind of interesting. Anyway, yeah, here's how you can start to lay things out in InDesign. Again, make some rules, make a basic organization with the grid. Think about how these things work. Um, think about not just body text, but then like, let's say titles, subtitles. What would you name your project? Or maybe you're already thinking about that. Do you say then also like what the building typology was? It was a museum. Where the site was located, what year or month or season it was, summer 2025 or June through August 2025 or something like that. And think about some of the things the what you would talk about here when it comes to sort of telling a story about your work. I'm just going to select this text box and go back over to paragraph. Let's see. Looks like some things are really unfortunately hyphenated. I just don't see where I can change the hyphenation part. Hmm. Hmm. Well, I don't know. Yeah. But I do recommend fixing that stupid hyphenation part. You just go here and find hyphenation. You can unclick it, uncheck it. What's interesting about this is that let's say I have some vector stuff in Illustrator as well. So I can place JPEGs and PNGs and things like that. Let me just see if I have a good Illustrator file I can demonstrate this with. Let's say I have a drawing or some sort of vector graphic in Illustrator. Exploded, make, floor plan from Revit. Let's do a floor plan from Revit. Why not? All right, here we go. It's 3 o'clock. That might be Ben Martin dropping out, um, which would be really unfortunate, but hey, whatever. Okay, yeah, let me just see. Oops. Yeah, let's see here. All right. Just going in and deleting some of these stray things that I don't want. Let's go back and let's call this our let's say one of my section drawings or something like that. It doesn't look like a floor plan to me. Maybe it is a floor plan. Who knows? I don't know what this line is though. It's driving me crazy. Seriously, just go. Right. Bruh. All right. Yeah, not too bad. I mean, I might change some line weights and things like that here, but yeah, I get ahead of myself. I'm just going to save that. I could always, import or place an AI file, .ai or Adobe Illustrator or a PDF, right? If it's vector, or I can just simply copy and paste from one to the other. I can copy and paste. Let's test that out. Copy, and then down here, over here, I can say there's a floor plan I'm referring to in the text as one of the figures. I can paste it. It preserves it does some crazy stuff here. Let me see. It's scaling the line weights. So things are getting darker. Um, and it's grouped together. You can see that dashed outline around it, interestingly, right? So that's one way of doing it, just copy and pasting line work in. Then when I want to get inside, I can actually change some of the line weights and things like that. I can double click inside and say, let's go to stroke and say, no, I don't want it to be three. Let's make it like one, like it's just a little over the top to make it three. Uh, let's see. One and on, right? I can sort of touch things up here as I go. There we go. Um, or let's try it this way. Let me see if I can just import it, place it. I should be able to place a PDF, place an Illustrator file. Let's see. What do we have here? Go by kind. JPEGs, MP4s, PDFs, PNGs. Where was that at then? Documents, Summer Studio maybe? There we go. Floor plan from Revit. There's that. There's that. Yeah. So I'll just place this PDF. From there, I think you can see that, again, I think I have a frame around it. Oof. Let me zoom out a bit here. Yeah. I just gotta resize this thing. Yeesh. I'm gonna hold down the shift keys to keep the constraints, keep the aspect ratio intact here. And then right click and say, let's fill that in. Fit content to frame. There we go. Right. Now that actually seemed to scale the line weights better, so that they weren't so silly. Um, so right, if this was my drawing, I'd sort of make that frame, then fit to frame, content to frame. There we go. And then place that where I need to place it. Yeah, but anyway, suffice to say, I mean, you can this way it's linked in from Illustrator. I can open this back up in Illustrator and change stuff. Here, I've just copied and pasted the lines, and so I can use the same line tools in InDesign and just sort of fine tune things inside of this thing if I wanted to. This is grouped, so I could say object and ungroup. Now suddenly I have all of these things as different layers, pieces. There we go. It's going to bug me if I don't change this box really quickly. Oof. I mean, I'll never open this file up again. Still, I want to change that box. Good grief. Um, and just as a reminder, right? I mean, these are closed shapes. I could also, add black to the fill color in here. Let's see. Is it going to work? I would think it would. Here, that's not. Huh. I should be able to, if it's a closed shape, just add a fill inside too, right? Like, but for whatever reason, it's not letting me do that. Huh. Weird. Oh well, no reason crying about it. Huh. All right, so yeah, there we go. So there's different ways you can work with those graphics. The interesting thing is that it preserves them as vectors. So if I zoom in, they don't get pixelated. That's a nice thing, right? They're not raster images like in Photoshop. Everything will just sort of rescale. If I zoom in and out, so you don't necessarily have to worry about resolution. Um, yeah, you can see here I have same thing, right? All right. Let's see. What am I missing here? Besides a quote from Darcy Wentworth Thompson. I don't know. Let's see. Or the difference between exact and exact and inexact. All right. So yeah, anywho, that's how you can start to lay things out. Now I picked a grid. It was kind of arbitrary. I'm just sort of thinking, if if I want a 3 by 3 grid, maybe this is a way of doing it. You saw lots of examples, different examples this morning, right? So again, I just want to emphasize you don't have to do it my way or this way. This way isn't even necessarily my way. I'm just doing something quickly. But to give it some thoughts, and let me just also open up the chat and see what. Be right back. Yeah, I completely forgot about this feature. Which one? Which one did you forget about? Anyone? I think that was Brian. Okay, he must not be at his microphone at the moment. But anyway, so I hope that's a little helpful in sort of, how to get through this. I'm just going to go ahead and start deleting some of this stuff. Let me just make a quick set of stuff here. But again, if I can easily make some text and say, let's say monumental draped interiors. So let's say I'm going to start to make some rules for myself and then translate those into actual styles that I can then apply by just simply clicking or dragging and dropping. So if I say monumental draped interiors, let me pick a typeface for this. I'm thinking these all suck. I mean, so many fonts and they all look like garbage. So that's why I usually just end up going with like Helvetica. It's like or Arial. Um, do they have Corbel in here? They don't. Don't use Comic Sans, please. Um, so I'm just going to go with something really nice and simple and easy. I'll do Helvetica Neue. Let's do thin. Thin looks nice. But now it's not bold. So I'm going to have to beef this up a little bit by making it 24 font. Um, yeah, let's try that. Now let me make another box right underneath this. I'll make this for body text. And I don't know what I had before, but if I just need some placeholder text, I can always go in here, say type, and I think there's a placeholder text insert, fill with placeholder text, right? We call this lorem ipsum because it used to start with some sort of faux Latin lorem ipsum stuff. Let's see. I'm not sure why it's going like a line and then a return and a line and return. But I'm just going to finish this out here. So I have enough. All right, there we go. So I can see what it looks like. Let's think Helvetica family, Helvetica Neue family again. But I don't know if I really want it to be thin. There's light, there's regular. Maybe I do regular. But I'm also thinking maybe size 10. Yeah, that looks good. And then maybe I'm also going to turn black into like a sort of darker gray. So here I can find black, I can find gray. Let's see where to go. Oh no, there it is. Okay. Pick a color down here, sort of just a dark gray. There we go. Yeah, it has some balance to it now. And let me try that actually with thin. I see I'm such a nerd when it comes to this stuff. No, that's not an improvement. It needs to be readable, even if I like the thinness. What about this one? I wonder if I could, what happens if I bold the thin? That could be interesting. Then italic, then bold. I don't want bold, I want thin bold. Let's come over here. Thin. Yeah, I'm not going to get that. Okay, that's fine. But anyway, so I have paragraph and I have character over here. But one thing I mentioned before is if you go to Windows and you go to styles, there's character styles and paragraph styles. So I'll pull these back, both of these up. In fact, it looks like I have styles, character styles, and paragraph styles now. Oh, that's beautiful. I'm just going to dock them all here on the same column here so I can just sort of see everything at once. So right now you can see I have no character styles and just a basic paragraph style, and then everything else is just set to normal. Right. So, one of the things I could do is say character styles. I'm going to add one, and this by default it's called character style one. I'm going to say right click and rename this. I'm going to say, let's say title, and hit OK. I could, when I'm there editing title, I could go through all of these and set all of these myself. What I'm going to do is, I think, use this eyedropper tool, and I'm going to click on this text, and let's see. There's a way I thought to just drop it right into this and make that, then all this text will help inform what this character style will be. Let's see. Add selected style to my current Creative Cloud library, create new style group, create new style. Apply, copy, new group from styles, edit style, duplicate style. This eyedropper tool should work. Color theme tool, no, eyedropper. So I click that, and I thought I should be able to style. Let's see. I'm looking for something where I can just sort of say, I want this to be that new, however I formatted this to be the new style, character style. New style group, copy to group, load all text styles, load character styles. Let's see, load character styles. No, that's not it. Load all text styles. Nope. So that's you can save these styles and import them into multiple documents if you want to. But let's. Oh, why is this so difficult? Sometimes things are hidden in this daggone thing. Um, I mean, sorry, good craftsman never blames just crappy tools. Let's see. Uh, I thought I could just do this though. Like I could drag. Hmm. I really thought that this thing actually had a. Ugh, this is driving me crazy. Um, so let me just look this up really quickly. This is what I do. InDesign, eyedropper, text style, character style. Yeah, here we go. The eyedropper tool can copy and apply check character styles. By default, it copies all text attributes. You can customize what it copies using the eyedropper options dialog box. To apply character style, select the eyedropper tool, click on the text with the desired style, then click and drag across the text you want to modify. Load the style, apply the style, select the eyedropper tool. Because I know I can do this. Let's say I wanted everything, I could say I want this to now change that. It would do that. But what I really want to know is like how to get, oh, Jesus. Here, sorry. Let's get that. Ugh. So I'm going to select this. Then I'm going to go ahead and, what is it doing? Okay. All right. Well, suffice to say, there are ways of doing this darn thing. Maybe I go to paragraph style. Maybe that would help. Let me right click on this. It's there. Fill with placeholder text, edit in story editor. Captions, extract, interactive hyperlinks, object export, display performance and copy. No. I was hoping maybe there was a way to basic paragraph, normal. Here we go. Paragraph style one. All right, so I think if you just select and then you create the new style, then it takes on the attributes of the text you have selected. I think. Let's try it here. Yeah. Okay. So with this one, I would say, so I'm using the paragraph style, heading or title or something like that. Heading style and hit OK. I can always go back in here and start to change things if I want. This would be paragraph style one. Yeah, so this would then, if I this was by default, then I could turn it to paragraph one. Yeah, there we go. So, huh, yay, yay, yay. What a pain in the rear. So if I start to make something with paragraph style one selected, let's say I fill this up with fill with placeholder text, it should be in that style now, right? So that's something to keep in mind, right? As you start to develop your rules for text, you can have a heading style, a caption style, paragraph text style, subheading style, or whatever, and think about how you can sort of um, codify those in with these paragraph styles. So when you're just making text, you can just simply drag and drop or select the text and then click one of these, and it should be a lot easier. I don't know why it appeared harder than it was. I think I'm just an idiot, is probably the case. So, too many things to remember. Yeah, anyway, it bugs me that this isn't dark enough. Let me look at the character styles. See, I could go back and forth on this all day. Light, medium, not fond of that. Regular, but then regular bold. Okay, no, that's not going to work. Light. Hmm. Regular's not bad. Maybe bold. No, bold is too much. Condensed bold will make it. That's not bad. Yeah, I'd try that. I wouldn't do condensed for body text where you want to have lots of dense words and want to read it nicely, but for titles it could work. Yeah, not too bad. It's not terrible. All right, anyway. You get the idea, right? I hope. So with that, I would, again, sort of let's see, is everyone? Here we are. With that, I would maybe end all the demonstrations today. Like I think we've done enough of me just sort of talking and sharing. I guess maybe I would ask, does anybody have any quick questions that everybody benefit from hearing and or clarifying? Anything for clarification? It's going to bug me if I don't line that up with the top of that. And see, here's the problem, right? I almost want to put like two columns next to each other, in which case I shouldn't have done three columns. I should have done two or four, right? Darn. I'll know that the next time I make a template.
If you would upload that to so that we could download one, because I'm new to a lot of this stuff and a lot of it takes me a long time. I'd appreciate it.
I'm not
So
sure what you'd get from this file, though. I mean,
having the grids around and kind of seeing, okay, all right, that's how I did it, and that
let's see. Let me save this, and I'll just
you can erase
I
all the
can send it to
stuff
you.
if you want, but just having all the grids around so that I know, okay, I can move that. I've never even
Right. Oh,
heard of
yeah.
InDesign.
Okay, so give me just a second. I'm going to save it, and then I can share it with you. But I want to show you one more thing
All right.
while I'm sharing and recording. So I'll call this sample. It's kind of goofy, so I'll say sample goofy. All right. So one thing you might noticed, maybe you noticed, is when I was showing you my portfolio, right? I had this PDF, and I have the InDesign file. I have this other backup InDesign file. And then I have something called document fonts and links. And that's because when I save this stuff, and in particular, when I add images and in Word documents and things like that, you don't actually insert the images into the file. So when you save the file, it doesn't get big, like it doesn't have all of the images inside of the file. What it does is it stores the information of where those images are linked from.
Okay.
Does
So
that make
don't,
sense?
yeah,
So
don't
here's
move
what
them.
you do. So if you are putting this together and you realize, that, okay, there's stuff from over here and there's stuff from over here. I'm going to move stuff around eventually, and I don't want to break all the links in my InDesign file. What you can do when you're pretty close to being done is you can go to File and there's Save, but you can also say Package. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll show you this. It's a sample Goofy. I can say File Package. And I will package this up. And it's going to say, if you're using any kind of strange fonts, we're going to package those fonts up with this file. So if somebody opens it, if you open it up on a different computer, you'll have those fonts. They'll be linked in this little file folder we're going to create. All the images, we'll make copies of all the images that you linked in here and put them in a links folder and relink everything for you. So this is a way to package everything up once you're close to being done. I'm going to hit package, and it's going to say, okay, you want to call this sample goofy folder? Yeah, sure. I'll put it on my desktop so it's easy for us to look at here in a minute. And say package. And I'm going to say, okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah, yeah, I don't care, whatever. Okay. So now you can see I have a folder here on my desktop called sample goofy folder. And when I open it up, I have a PDF version that it saved for me. And I have the InDesign file, new InDesign file, and all of the images and stuff and everything else I use, PDFs and Word docs that were linked in, are here under the links folder. And then any fonts that I used are also included in the fonts, document fonts folder. So everything's sort of packaged up. If you take this, move it to different machines, send it to someone else, whatever it is, download it later, then everything will be contained. You can open it up. All the links will still work. All the fonts will still work. Okay, so that's another thing that's worth mentioning here. Is at a certain point when I'm done or when I'm at a certain important point, I will not just save the file, but I'll package it. And then I'll have that packaged file. All the links are in the same place, in the right place. All the fonts are packaged together with it. It's really nice. And again, I would uh, again try to make sure that you're not only aware of that, but then you use it. You do that. Uh, every time you sort of make an update to your portfolio, then you package it back up, save that new package, and back it up as well, right? Okay, so this is sample Goofy folder, and yeah, I can. What would be the best way to get that to you? Let me see how big this is. Get info, 132 megabytes. Oof, that's decent sized. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zip it up. So I'm going to say compress it so just one file. And then you can
Okay.
just always uncompress it on your end. In fact, when you download it, it'll probably just uncompress it already and put it uncompressed in your downloads. That's what it does for me. And let me just upload that to Google Drive. Let's see. Portfolio. Oh, this is the wrong one. This is my UNLV one. This is okay. My Drive. Portfolio. Portfolio examples. And I'll throw this in here and then I'll put a link to it for you. To you for it. Let's see. Give it a second. Where is it? Oh, here it is. So I'll say share, get link, anyone with a link, copy link, done. All right. I'm going to put this in the where is record? I'm going to turn off recording.